Okay. Cool. All right. So let me know if we're live on Facebook. It says we are. I just want to make sure that things are totally fucked. You want to just check the Facebook page and make sure that the stream's going through?
Slow down here. Yeah.
It's just us talking right now? Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. Things are totally fucked. You want to just check the Facebook page and make sure that the stream is going through? Cool. Yeah, you're gonna want to probably mute that so that we're not getting the.
Yeah, that's going off. Alrighty.
So yes, Jesus. Okay, who's we got 2 people watching it currently. I'm not sure who it is. Let me know if we're live on Facebook. It says we. Okay, yeah, people are tuning in, so seems to be people are listening right now. I'm gonna actually keep the chat open here on my laptop.
Yeah, so the 3 things that we wanted to talk about, just because the overall properties of the Liberalists seem to be kind of vague on it.
Yeah.
And they're pretty Canada specific, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think the First Nations one is going to be the biggest one for us, because that's going to be a really touchy issue. So
exactly, yeah,
we're gonna need to get some kind of grounding about what we're going with or we're not going with here. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. I just want to plug in my laptop here. So did you? I was gonna say, did you hear about what's her name, Lauren Southern, getting banned from the UK?
Yeah, that was so dumb. But have you seen the? There's some stuff saying that she forged that document, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure who to believe because it does
not surprise me at all that they would do that, just because of what they did to the last people.
Yeah, which we know that was in fact true.
Yeah.
So if they did the Lawrence Southern or not, I wouldn't be surprised. But
no, exactly.
Have you seen any of the evidence in terms of the forged documents?
No, they just broke it down. They were United Kingdom was spelt wrong, and she used some words that were spelt in the American way or the Canadian way or something, not the British way. And
okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening then, because I feel like the UK will comment on that.
Yeah.
So okay, here we go. I just want to make sure that this live is going through. Okay, yeah, the live stream is good. Let's see if anybody else here. I thought I heard somebody might have joined the hangout here. Nope, it's just us currently, I think. Oh, Ben Holt. Oh, what did Ben say? Where's the conversation here?
That is my roommate.
Yeah, and then you gotta get the plugin to allow me to video call. I mean, I set it up, so I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna work. Somebody's gonna need to for you, dude. Did you always just join it and they just ran?
Yeah, that's what it.
What plugin is he talking about? Let's see. Oh, anyway. Well, I guess we can kind of get going here. I guess the first thing we should talk about is we probably won't have time to get through all the topics today. Like we said we would, but there's too much.
Yeah,
there's too much there.
Yeah, and it is 11:15 here, so I don't know how late people are going to be up tonight, but
yeah, I mean, I guess it is a weekday. Today's Monday. Yeah, today's Monday. All right. So I guess. Is there any topic you would prefer to start with? Would you rather start with the military? Would you rather start with First Nations immigration or military procurement?
Immigration is probably the most one that really would be the most broad. So probably we should start with that one. Or we could wait for people to come, and then we could get some more. Because I don't know.
I know there's people looking. I know there was more people planning on coming, so
yeah, exactly.
We'll give it a little bit of time here. Usually need to give like 20 minutes for people to kind of join. Who is that? Like it says I can't call because it's not approved. I don't fucking know. Oh, you gotta.
1 second here. I will see sort of out.
If you're I forgot he's like in the building with you, so that's probably the best option here.
Yeah.
Any progress?
Yeah, it seems to be working now.
Cool. All right. Well, assuming that he's in the call, I might bring up actually I'm gonna bring up a Word document. That I'm gonna kind of keep. That I'm gonna type stuff into here. Okay. Oh my God! Somebody sounds like they just joined. I don't know what that sound is.
I don't know what that sound is either.
What the fuck? Okay. Okay, I'm not going to be watching the Facebook feed just because I'm not going to be paying really close attention to it. So if you notice anybody saying anything or talking about crap or doing whatever, I guess let me know. Cool. Okay, where the heck is the chat? Hey, yo, Ben. Show message. I'm going to keep the messages open here in case people want to chat. Yo, Ben, are you in? Okay. Okay. Hey, what's up, Ben?
Not much. How about you?
No, just hanging out. Got my homework done. Ready to talk some politics.
Nice.
I'm gonna keep some track of some notes here, like what we discussed, kind of what the general consensus was, all that crap. Okay. Okay. Cool, Ben. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. Who the fuck is even watching this right now? Whatever. I think the three of us discussing will be good enough. If people have other commentary, they can basically just kind of drop in and comment whatever they want. Okay, so yeah, who wants to start this off here then? I'm gonna I'll be our scribe for the time being. So I don't need to talk at the moment.
Yeah. So basically, one thing that really is interesting about Canadian immigration is the point system that we have. That is pretty unique. I know Australia has that as well.
So you're talking about the system there?
Yeah, like the system that we have here with the point system. That if you're educated, you get more points, and if you get a certain amount of points, that
is it merit then?
Yeah, so most of it is merit. We've been taking in more refugees, but that doesn't mean that we're taking less of anything else. Like I know in the past couple of years, Canada's tried to take in more Syrian refugees, but that doesn't mean that we're taking in more immigrants overall. It just means we're taking in less from other areas.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to. That was something I always wanted to get clarification on. When we actually bring in immigrants, refugees, do the refugees count as immigrants out of like the total pool, or are they kind of a separate category?
Yeah, I'm not too clear on that either. I'm not 100% sure. But I know that Canada does. We have done pretty well with our refugee system because we've taken in almost entirely only families. We have a system where we have only taken in families, and fighting age men, like single fighting age men, have not been allowed. And so I think that's good so far.
It's better than Europe for sure.
We haven't had many of the problems that Europe has had, and that many of the other Western countries have had.
Who the hell's that? Oh, what's up, Rebecca?
I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo. Hey, Rebecca, I think we're getting some echo. Do you think you could throw in some headphones?
Okay, yeah, I will see if I can get them to work.
Cool. Here, I'll do the same here just in case, because I got a big speaker, so that might be a problem. Yeah, I've never actually had particularly a huge amount of issue with the Canadian immigration system because I think it works better than pretty much everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that kind of brings us. I think the big question in that regard is then, who are we wanting to maintain our focus with, or do we want to stick with a merit-based point system, which I think is the best option?
I think definitely we do. We do have a need for merit-based. Not much of our economy is based around like immigration and immigrants because we have a very highly skilled immigrant workforce, right? From mine. And I think that's mainly because of our system that we have. I don't see a need to change it. The numbers wise, I don't know. I think we could do with less. I don't think 300,000, like 300,000 is what we set at now, right? 300,000 a year. And I don't know.
Actually, yeah, I'm gonna look that up here. Because that'd be good to know.
And I don't know if we need that many, but there aren't many radical politicians out there that are saying anything different. I know many of the conservative politicians said they wanted to maybe go on to 275 or 280, 285.
That's not much of a change, right?
No, it's not much, but that does very all politicians, I think, see it that as. But another large thing is who we're bringing in, right?
Like I guess should we be limited immigration from? And this is something like obviously like the big Trump problem. Should we be limited immigration from countries that are more prone to ideologies or issues that might cultural problems that might interfere with our own? Because I know in the past, since we've been almost entirely merit based, we've usually avoided that because you're bringing in educated people who are usually leaving those countries for this, for those reasons. Like guys like Gadsat and stuff who left Lebanon because of religious persecution. So I don't know if we need to worry about that as much. But actually, yeah, what is our current? Sorry, I was gonna look that up. What is our current immigration rate?
Yeah, that'd be good to know.
I believe it's 300,000. In 2017, they wanted to raise it to 310,000 for 2018 and 340,000 for 2020.
Yeah, what was it? Didn't Trudeau say he wanted to bring in like 1.5 million immigrants in like 3 years? Wasn't that the number? It was like something absurd like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I know he does slightly want to raise it. Now the NDP, they want to go much farther. From what I remember from the election, they wanted to go even farther. But one thing that I do see with immigration, especially, is not the impact on our country, but one argument that I hear and I read about is that the brain drain argument, right? You've probably heard it, but the amount of educated and highly important people that we do bring in from these countries, it's not going to solve anything in the long run for these countries. It's going to help the individuals, but
the overall country. Yeah, I think that we need to invest, like, kind of not necessarily foreign aid, but just kind of sponsor growth within like foreign countries, just to develop their own local industries and like try to increase their living standards, and then so that they can diversify their workforce, and then we start increasing immigration, for example.
Haven't we been doing that for the last 50 years though? Like,
well, yeah. Because, like, that's a good point, and this is actually something I know they talked about in terms of, oh my god, we got somebody else. What's up, bro? Ooh, what's up? I think one of the things I noticed when I was reading about immigration is that since we do take in the most educated people, you're right, it's fucking up the economies of other countries. So the question becomes, do we as Canada want to be interested in benefiting foreign nations in that we want to be, we want to develop and help out, third world developing countries, or do we want to just say, no, fuck it, we're Canada first? So
it definitely does come down to what we are really looking for in immigration. If we're looking to help the world, then it's definitely not helpful in the long run. But if we're looking to help these individuals, then, or if we're looking to help Canada alone, which I don't believe that has been the case, especially with Trudeau now, he definitely sees Canada playing a larger role in the world. But I'm not huge on much of the foreign investment stuff as much. Just
it's a national security risk.
Things that government does with money and what we see as fit with that money is just not helpful to anybody. I don't know if you guys follow Rand Paul in the States much.
Sorry, who? Ryan Paul?
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Tea Party guy. But he really focused on stupid good government spending.
Mm-hmm.
And
hey, so sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here. Yo, Milan, or sorry, how do you say your name, dude? Is it Milan?
Mylan.
Mylan, yeah, dude. Can you mute yourself when you set everything up because it's making a shit ton of noise? I think you're good now. Never mind.
But like America spends tens of millions of dollars like setting up a televised cricket league in Afghanistan and stuff like that. And I know that they're trying to help the economy of Afghanistan, help the people there, but I don't know. I don't see Canada or America.
Like, I do tend to support it to an extent, though, like, because I was watching one of Jordan Peterson's videos recently, and he said this statistic that between 2002 and 2012 that we reduced global inequality and poverty by 50%. So I think, we've done well, but I don't know. Like 2002 to 2013 or something. I don't know.
I think it was 2000 to 2012.
Yeah.
Ben's right though. Like the in terms of absolute like poverty, it's like fallen off the map. It's like the poorest people now have it comparable to some of the more middle class people did 70, 80 years ago. So I mean, like, things are better. I think the question is that, okay, if we want to use immigration to benefit Canada, we need to be willing to admit to ourselves we're going to be drawing talent away from other countries, which whatever. That's a strategy. Get the smartest doctors and engineers from Nigeria to come here. But is our purpose in that regard to bring educated people here? Because the other argument we're going to constantly hear from people on the farther left spectrum is we need to replace our population, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think that we should be able to reach a stable population. Like demographically speaking, you shouldn't need to bring in immigrants to maintain your population. Like, it isn't necessary to do that.
If you're relying on immigration and especially immigration of young men just to keep your workforce able to support your aging population, that is bad governance, right? Like,
well, it's a pyramid scheme essentially.
Yeah, like Germany has that big problem. Their population is aging as hell, but I don't think that it's any better off now.
No. Another thing, I mean, the other case study that's pointed to constantly is Japan, because Japan is going through a population decrease. But yeah, but I know that one of the things people pointed out about that because I asked a guy who was living in Japan at the time about this, and he said that the population decrease isn't as much of a problem as people think it is, because essentially what it just has done is it's just drained the countryside, and they've all just moved to the city. Because and then more technology has replaced the farmers and the rural population they don't need. So, like, I guess the question is do we give a fuck if our population keeps growing, or if we get to a point where we're hovering around, like, let's say we hover at 40 million people forever? Like, does it matter? Like, who cares? I guess that's a good point. Or should we incentivize people here to have kids? Like that.
That's a big thing. That a couple of years ago they had that in Sweden, right? They were trying to push their population to reproduce, so they didn't have to do this, and I guess it didn't work. So now they've resorted to mass migration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's not importation of an entire workforce.
Definitely not.
Well, I mean, that's been a strategy for a really, really long time.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have more jobs than people, you just import them.
Yeah, definitely that's been a thing ever since. Yeah, like we required bigger workforces, but we're especially having a problem now as the demographic pyramid gets pushed farther and farther up, right? As the mass of people become older and older, and we now live in states where it's based around the working class being the working age being the majority, and now the working age can't support the amount of older people. So it definitely calls for different solutions, I think. But
like one solution I saw recently was I read about Sweden. They raised their retirement age by I think 3 or 4 years to cope with the amount of people on welfare, like the migrants that come in, and also to cope with their aging population.
So one of the big problems with the immigration question is what would the liberalists' position be? Like the liberalists policies don't have anything on immigration as a whole. Now they're very open with free speech and lower government intervention. So I don't know if that pushes us towards more free movement of people, or if that pushes us in what direction. But I would like to hear what you guys think.
All right, 1 second here. No, never mind. I'm good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, as like immigration, the problem. This is the kind of the problem. Immigration wasn't really a thing when liberalism was invented. Like I said, philosophy. Like you never had immigration in Europe. It was all native-born population, and people obviously moved around. But the idea of
that's no way. I mean, gypsies in France, right? That was a big one.
Well, like, true. Like there is immigration, migration by populations.
Forever, basically.
But like
it's not
You've
a
seen
new.
you've seen like a systemic shift over the past 100 years of what immigration is defined as, right? Like within the West,
because like prior to the U.S. model, there wasn't really any, like there was colonies, and like obviously there's colonies, and that's something that we've been dealing with throughout all of history. And there's obviously been immigration and migration, but like state-sponsored immigration, I think outside of the early U.S. attempts, I'm not really sure. I would have to look at the history of that. But like liberalism doesn't really touch upon it, because it becomes a question of freedom of movement. Like, does the national state define your ability to move freely among countries? And that kind of becomes a question of, okay, well, like I think that most people who are liberalists or libertarian types assume that their rights are defined by not God, but they're ordained by birth. It's not. It's like, because certain countries say, oh, it's your state that gives you those privileges to move around in your own country. But then if you assume those rights are ordained by other people, do those rights evaporate once you leave to another country? That's kind of like the European question with the EU. And I mean, I don't really know. Like, I don't know what, like, if you were to ask John Locke or Stuart Mill, like, what their opinion would be, like, I don't really even know if the question would make sense to them. One
interesting thing that Aaron O'Toole, one of the conservative candidates for leader in the last running, brought up perhaps a free movement just between like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK.
Yeah, Anglosphere.
Yeah, like, so I don't know if that has anything to do with immigration, and if liberals have a position on similar people immigrating versus importing people from different culture, right?
But I think the big question is just balancing security with that freedom, because the main purpose of government is to protect people's freedoms.
Yeah.
So obviously, having no border control, your freedoms aren't going to be very well protected if the neighbors march over with a bunch of guns and shit.
No, exactly. And
That's really what it comes down to, is how much immigration is can safely be allowed in a liberal democracy.
yeah, no, exactly. And if you're bringing in people who don't want liberal democracy, right? But I don't think, like Kelly Leach, another one of the conservative candidates, wanted to have a Canadian values test for immigrants. And I don't know if we want to bring in people that have exactly what Canadians have, or if
I mean, I
How
think
would you
an
test?
Well, you just lie if you didn't follow the. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
Like-
no, exactly.
like-
Like
I mean, I guess that's kind of ironic because we do the same thing with our group. We gave the answer a bunch of questions. You can just fucking lie if you wanted to, but I guess then if you lie, you're then culpable. So I don't know what the I don't really am not a fan of a values test because besides I would assume the values that we as a group hold dear, like liberalism, like freedom of speech and shit like that. Like I wouldn't you could ask a person in Alberta what their opinion on like what their values for Canada are, and they'd be different than a guy from French Canada. So
Yeah.
that's always going to be a problem. I think I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names, dude. Sorry, what's your name again? I can't pronounce it. I can't read. I'm illiterate. How do you say it again?
Me?
Yeah, you, man.
Milan.
Milan. Okay, yeah. I'm just. I deal with numbers. I think I'm autistic.
I
But
can't remember one of your names.
yeah, I think. Here, actually, 1 second. I gotta check something, but I'll be back.
How you guys doing?
hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'm Dan. Hi.
Hey, Dan.
Well,
So Dan, what do you think on the immigration question in Canada? How do you think it stands? What do you
Let's
think?
see. I would love to take more Canadians into America. My mother is from Canada. She was born there. My entire family's in New Brunswick. And what they say about immigration is that they're incredibly, I would say, pissed off about what Trudeau's doing with the whole returning ISIS thing.
Oh yeah, no, that is absurd. Yeah.
And I think all immigration should be kind of the same, where it's all merit based.
Yeah, no, for sure. But how do you define that merit? Now we define on education and work history. If you have sponsors here, now what do you think about that?
So what Australia does, for instance, they have a point system based on the market. So let's say they need more of a particular job. Someone's making a lot of noise, and I gotta mute someone because I can't hear. Let's see. Okay. So yes. Whoa. What is that? Anyone hear that?
Like that tapping noise, it sounds metallic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that too. I don't know what that is.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, right?
Okay. Just make sure it's not me. Okay. So essentially, what Australia does is that they have jobs available for. I just muted myself again. Okay. So let's say they need certain.
Yeah, I think
They're short. Let's just say augers, arborists. They're short on arborists or farmers. So they go, hey, okay, let's we need 10 more farmers. So then farmers go to the top of the list because they need those. So it's, I guess it would be merit based on needs and individuals.
Yeah. Now that's very similar to what we have, right? I think that's great because one of the only reasons why you bring in immigration from a domestic point of view is to support your local, like your national community, right? But as we're starting to see, maybe economics isn't everything. Like 30% or whatever that number from that poll in UK was that this amount of British Muslims support Sharia law, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like somewhere.
Economically helpful to be British, but maybe that isn't everything, right? Like you can't have people. Well, see, that's where it becomes tricky for me because I don't know if you should let someone in if they support Sharia law, which goes against literally everything that you as a country stand for. But I don't know.
Here's the big problem with immigration in that sense. That I really hope that's not my mic because my mic has been working nicely until.
I think I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, dude, but I think it's your mic because I'm only hearing that sound when you're using it.
Yeah, give me one.
Yeah, I'll give you a sec here.
So Rebecca, we haven't really heard much from you. What do you think?
Oh, I'm listening. I think the point made about the prioritizing immigration based on like profession is interesting because like if you remember the temporary foreign workers program,
Yeah.
kind of halted, but there was a lot of controversy about that a couple of years ago. I worked in a place which was very well supported by that program. We had a lot of employees brought under that program, mostly from the Philippines.
Okay.
And because this is in a small town, tourist town, but small population, so we would see like enormous numbers of people flowing through the town. This is a restaurant. And we really, really did need that program to staff because our tiny little town just literally, we did not have the workforce to support the influx of people coming through. And like we got like the most amazing workers from that program. So when that was cut, we lost a lot. The people could stay out their terms, but we couldn't bring in any more people like that.
Yeah.
And we suffered a lot as a business.
So what I'm saying is that I just went into the Discord to check out my mic and it's working fine. So I don't know what is going on, but I will say what like Ayan Hersey Ali said when it comes to immigration of different cultures, you don't want to do it in a mass way because what happens is when you import a lot of people from a different culture, they end up insulating themselves within their own culture, like against the outside culture.
Yeah.
They'll form enclaves within cities and stuff like that.
Well,
That's why I do support like a merit or not a merit based thing, but like a Canadian values test, so that it offers an incentive almost for people to kind of absorb themselves in the Canadian culture and not close themselves off.
But
How do you stop people from lying in a culture test?
Yeah, well, you can lie on the culture test, but that may be something more based on multiculturalism, not immigration, right? Like, you can immigrate a lot, like high amounts of people without allowing them to form enclaves like that. Like,
well, that's been Europe's problem because they've exclusively implemented some of the worst fucking immigration like policy I've ever seen.
Merkel.
You mean no policy?
Yeah, yeah, essentially, like it doesn't also help that the Europeans, and even though like the French have been interested about this because they have very much have their kind of laissez-faire attitude towards how things are run, especially in your own community. So there's a lot of self, like I don't want to say self-governance because that's not the right way of putting it, but it's similar to how in Germany and in Hamburg they have communities of like they have anarchist communities in the city where they've allowed people just to move in there and basically build and not pay taxes and abandon old areas of town. And that was the reason that the G20 protests were so fucking messy because there was like hundreds and hundreds of anarchists who were hiding in these essentially ghettos. And I think that's a big problem. And I agree with, I think, was it Ben or was it Brandon who brought it up? Sorry, not Brandon. Is that your Brundle? I'm whatever.
I'm Dan.
Oh, Dan. Okay, you're Dan. All right. Might have brought it up that I don't think we should worry about the values of the people coming in because I think that if it's not mass, like Dan has mentioned, they won't self-segregate, and then those values won't be reinforced over time. Because that's a problem. Sure. Yeah. Is that if they go to their own communities and they don't assimilate, I know I hate to use the word assimilate, but if they don't
assimilation, it's not a dirty word to say.
Yeah.
Assimilate the dominant culture.
Yeah.
If that dominant culture is good towards people's liberty,
mm-hmm.
I mean that's where I determined. Someone asked me the other day, and I'm sorry, this noises. But someone asked me the other day, how do you judge society? And to me, it's very simple. You judge them based on the amount of liberty they're able to afford each citizen.
So more liberty equals a better society?
Yeah.
How do you measure that?
Well, if you happen to live in a society that once your husband dies, you get forced, even at the age of 13, to live in a segment, like India does, and they force 13-year-old brides to live segregated because they're widows and considered bad luck. Or if you're gay, you get thrown off a roof. Or if you're a woman and not allowed to go out without your husband. I mean, you can easily tell who's more liberal in the society just by viewing how their cultures run.
Yeah, I think.
Like,
Well,
for instance,
yeah.
Mexico is still. I'm sorry, I'll finish.
No, please, I'll go.
Real quick. For instance, Mexico and a few other countries still operate based on their law, based on you're guilty until proven innocent.
Oh, that's fucking dumb. But whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. But the problem with Canada is that we don't seem to send immigrants to where they're needed most, right? Like the East Coast, especially, is really suffering. Like they have a very small workforce. Like Cape Breton, like a year ago, had to appeal like nationally on CBC and everything, saying anyone who can work, just come here. We have like no workers and pay you way more, and yet almost all the immigrants still come to Toronto and Hamilton and Vancouver and everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's a messy problem too, because you can't be like, you can't go to Toronto, because then you're fucking with their liberty. So you're right, actually. I've always.
But
Refugees get assigned though.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like there are definitely more services available to immigrants and refugees in Toronto, Hamilton, and Vancouver. So that is why they would do that. But I think that you have to start to set up ways that you can get them to where they're needed most, because that's one way that you're starting to get multicultural societies where it's literally just a different culture where barely anyone speaks English in that area.
Yeah.
Is that they're all going to the same place and they're all only congregating with the people who came from their country, and you're getting problems.
But you see it. It's called when you have very diverse areas of a city. What it eventually starts is you have. Let me think about this. Essentially, in America, 1900, what marriage was like a caste system where Irish only married Irish, and etc. By 1990, only 1 out of 5 spouses claimed that they shared ethnic ancestry with their spouse. It goes from what is known as bonding social capital, which is the social capital built between groups of similar people, to bridge social capital by the 3rd generation. So if you look at Islamic migrants, for instance, a lot of terrorism being committed is by 2nd generation children. They're in between. They're stuck with their parents' generation that has roots at home, and the next generation after them that would be more assimilated. So that it's a big thing to think about. I'm going to take off actually because I do have to go to school. I just want to say hi, and I'm going to figure out why my mic is making this noise, and I apologize for that.
No worries, Dan. It was a pleasure to have you drop in.
Bye-bye.
The main reason for this talk was to try to get an idea of where we as a group at the Canadian Liberalist Society would stand, right? Because there is no overall national or international stance from the Liberalists on this yet. So where, I don't think the 5 of us or the 6 of us could decide this, but where would we be able to stand and say this is our stance?
I think consistently what we've seen from everybody commented is, merit-based, should be meritocracy, it should be not mass immigration, and there should be some kind of an incentive to send them places where they'll actually be helpful. I know that sounds kind of like weird, but like I mean, like, well, it's like how you used, like, when they wanted more people to come to the United States, they just said, look, we'll give you free fucking land if you move that way so we can settle the West. So you could, yeah, exactly. You could I mean, we can't do that anymore because we've already settled all the land. But you could give incentive for people that might have, maybe your points don't line up well enough. Like, the doctor is going to beat out the truck driver from Syria, but
Yeah.
if you want to still come,
truck drivers.
Sorry, what?
That depends if we need truckers or doctors.
Oh, sure, obviously. Oh, obviously, yeah. I agree with the idea of doing the need-based.
Taking more farmers or more service workers than whatever, right? Like, we don't need more cab driver people, right? Like, we have a lot of cab drivers, for instance, but we don't have many people that are able to work in the service industry on the East Coast or are able to man factories or stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah, I think a smart option would be if you don't get in based purely on your merit because you just get beat out because, for instance, maybe we need more doctors and more truck drivers, so you're just not on the list. There could be a secondary alternative to be like, look, we're gonna send you the Nunavut for 5 years to build shit because Nunavut sucks and there needs to be infrastructure development. So you get to go there and you get to spend time working under some kind of like a similarly to a temporary foreign workers program like Rebecca was talking about. Something that will assist communities that need that labor at a cost that's lower to the immigrant to come in. So it's not like they lose out on the merit-based system because there's other people had more points, but we'll send you to Cape Breton to build roads because we need to build roads there and nobody else is willing to do it. I mean, like, you could do a system like that, which I don't think would cause too many problems because especially you're sending people places. So then it's not like they're going to self-segregate because you've sent them places. And then by the time...
problem that Britain had, they 20 and 30 years ago and all the way back to the 50s, they did bring in a lot of foreign workers that they said were just going to be temporary, like Turkish workers, and they just said, oh, they're temporary, they're going to stay, they're helping to build the economy, and then they just never left. And now they brought their families, and now they've brought all their family's family and stuff. So I don't know. Because once you bring people here to work and they've set up lives, it's not quite fair, I think.
Oh no, I wouldn't want to send them back. I think it'd be almost just like you got to work a couple of years to earn your way, and then you enter the more formal process. Because like the only people that we'd be bringing over in temp would be like on temp or on those work permits would still be people that passed all the other immigration. They just weren't on the top of the list.
And as Obama said, give the migrants a path to citizenship, right?
Yeah, but like not let them walk across the border illegally.
Yeah,
like, they obviously
Trudeau seems to be real good at that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Illegal migrants, calling them irregular.
Well, I mean, I love the newspeak. It's like if something's dirty, you just make up.
It's so.
There was this is off topic, but there was a really good Calvin and Hobbes comic where Bill Watterson literally wrote an entire basically I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was Calvin saying that you can turn any academic paper into a messy, confused fog of neoliberal neologisms and newspeak, because he said he literally read like an art critique book and the words were so fucking absurd that he just took them and put them into the comic and it was funny. So like, I don't know, Bill Watterson was woke.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a good talk, I guess. If anyone has anything else to add on it on the immigration topic,
I think we've kind of all reached. I mean, obviously other people speak, but I think we have a decent.
I don't know if you want to keep going. If you want to keep going on the next topics, or
it's up with everybody else. I mean, I know it's late for most of you. Well, I know Mylan and I are both in Saskatchewan, so it's only 10 o'clock here. But I know for the rest of you guys are on the East Coast, so it's a little later. The other topic, because I think immigration is pretty. It's pretty. We're all in the same ballpark. I don't think there's nobody that's wildly one way or the other. We're pretty centrist.
We're Canadians. We're like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
We generally agree.
Yeah, we're generally agree. We're very agreeable, as Peterson might say.
Seems like our system is pretty much set up for all this stuff already. It just needs to be tweaked.
Yeah,
it's already merit based.
Yep,
I agree. We wouldn't really change much.
Do you guys have any one big qualm with our system now? There's no like. Do you see us have any things that could lead to this as bad as it is in Europe?
No, the only way it's going to end up like that is if people like Trudeau want to keep virtue signaling and keep wanting to bring in just more and more people. Because the thing that was funny was that it actually turned out he actually ran out of like willing applicants, like people who had like applied to the immigration process and who were actually interested to move here. So he was talking about, you know, not lowering standards, but more so pulling a Merkel and like bringing in like refugees, and like that's how you fuck things up. And it's not, you just can't mass migrate people from like that from another culture. It's just, you just can't do it.
So what do we do? Do we just leave them in Syria?
I think that's a loaded question, man. Because now we're on foreign relations.
Deal with that.
Why don't we just send them to Russia? I think Putin would like that.
Yeah, Putin can finally win in Syria. We'll give him all the refugees.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys want to quickly talk about military procurement or the indigenous people, or?
I think the indigenous people topic, that's something that we really should dedicate a lot of time to, just because it's a really important topic, and it's also going to be very, very sensitive. So it's something we have to do a lot of good discussion on. So maybe
we leave that one for another day.
That's what yeah.
Then we could leave military one for as well and just go one at a time.
Yeah, it might be smarter. I don't think military procurement is going to be a super long topic, but it's definitely.
It would literally take maybe 20 minutes to do.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. So we can do it. We can do it some other time. We knew when we discussed the First Nations relations and how we're going to help out the Indigenous population. Probably, because honestly, part of my solution was I always thought that the First Nations actually make up a very large percentage of our military, like disproportionate to the population. And I always thought that was a good method to, especially for northern communities that don't have a lot of work. That was the reason I was always interested in Arctic expansion, because a lot of communities far north that don't have work. If you put a naval base there, you just employed people to work on ships, build ships, and maintain it. But we won't do that because the entire system is broken. So the military procurement process, the too long didn't read, needs to just be completely overhauled. And then I think we should keep the manufacturing and stuff here. It just needs to be completely redone because it's just inefficient and too political.
Yeah. Okay, and then why don't we end it here and then.
Sure.
All right. Well, good talking, buddy. We'll talk to you then.
Yeah, we'll do this again sometime. It was great.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Talk to you guys.
Yeah, talk to you guys later.